Okay, so next up is Parenthood. So can you describe the moment that you saw Tash for the first time?
Of course I can. Lots of hair. She was premature. It's a saga. At least we knew because we'd done prenatal courses where the hospital was, which didn't happen with you because we got into the hospital. We didn't know where the maternity unit was, and it was a bit of a rush. And I say, Mum popped her out in no time flat, and then she got very jaundiced, so she was in hospital for 7 8 days. Mum had a lovely room with a balcony, and Mum enjoyed the sun in those days. And she didn't put up much weight when she was pregnant, and she didn't look pregnant from behind at all. And by the time she came out of hospital, she was tanned and in a rock six-pack stomach. It was most amazing. She didn't look like she'd ever had a child. Tashi got jaundice, as I say, and we had a typical apartheid experience that somebody going to look at the babies in the incubator area saying, "Oh, I didn't know they allowed Indian children in here." Typical apartheid sort of remark. The drama with Tash was getting her home because we had a cousin called Donald who miraculously appeared out of nowhere at the most horrendous times of our lives. And we just got little Tash. I don't know if you've heard that song, Just the Two of Us by Will Smith, about driving the baby home for the first time and wondering why everybody's driving so fast and things like that. And it was like that. We got her home and we no sooner got her in a bassinet or whatever it is, and we're worrying about her and will she feed and will she eat. There's a knock at the door at 9 o'clock at night, and Donald and a friend in inverted commas, come and say, "We're here to stay." And I said, "We just brought the baby home." "Well, that's all right." And Mum had to cook him a meal and everything else while we were worrying about it. So that was a bit of a drama at the start of this parenthood. But Tash, neither of you ate a lot in the early days, so that was a worry for us. But the whole question of giving birth to children, I mean, it's just been so easy. We got pregnant easily. Somebody had to do something for that. I understand that. We got pregnant. Then the labour was easy, and you've been easy ever since. And Mum just took to motherhood, as I said earlier on. She just loved every minute of it, and I loved every minute of it. I feel bad at critical stages because the career was zooming off into the hinterland, is that I wasn't home enough. I like to think that telling tar baby stories and making up things for you made up for some of that. But basically it was the three of you who worked as a unit right from the word go. Tash has been fantastic. She's never failed an exam. She's never done one single thing wrong. She's only had one boyfriend. She married. She's very beautiful. She doesn't age. She's just fantastic. She's been working for the same Japanese company for 21 years. She's brilliant at what she does. She's everything, whether it's managing the home or anything else. She's been perfect from start to finish. You too, Tony, have been perfect from start to finish, except for both of us have had an experience of stress at one time or another, and you're after a horrendous battle with glandular fever, and that's probably when we were the closest to you because you stayed with us. We loved every minute of it, and you pulled yourself out of that. And you have, besides doing incredibly well in business on your own and in the company you work for at the moment, you have a way about you which makes people like you. And you can see it we've got walls papered with people sending you, "Tony, you're the only one who gets it in this company. Tony, it's wonderful what you've done. I'm so proud of you, the way you represent our company at this conference," or whatever. So, we would like to tell you war stories about you and Tash, but there are no war stories. There are only stories of peace and happiness, for which we thank you both.
So actually talking of stories, do you have any favourite stories about us as kids?
One of the important things about relationship is that you and Tash have always, never fought, always got on well. And the illustration of that is once at a fantastic avant-garde architecture design house in Port Elizabeth. You were playing outside with some golf clubs or something, and whatever happened, Tashi's two front teeth got knocked out. And
Yes.
Tashi's only comment was to come rushing in with no front teeth and say, it wasn't Tony's fault, it wasn't Tony's fault. Tony didn't do it. Don't be cross with Tony, it wasn't his fault. And that sort of sums up the relationship between you. And I remember Mum trying to bend the teeth back into shape. The strength came in there. I was fainting. She was putting the teeth back into position. That sort of sums up you and Tash. That and you sliding down our steep lawn on trays and things like that.
I still have vague memories of that.
Yeah. One of talking for your own parenthood, you've got endless videos of it. We didn't have anything like that in those days. You've got faded pictures in albums, of me throwing Tash in the air and all those sort of things, but we don't have the battery of memories that you have now.
Do you have sort of any funny or unusual things you can think of about your children that stand out?
Tashi was the captain of the Cambridge. Well, now mentioning she went to Cambridge and did incredibly well. She is captain of the karate team, and in fact, Tash actually went on to become runner-up in the World Championships in a style in New York, and a split decision against some Russian woman, and should have been banned and sent back to the tundra. But she's completely different when she was fighting. You've seen her with blood streaming down her nose from a blow and stuff like that. But she just can turn like that into a different person. And I've got a different story with you, is that when you were in business on your own, setting up a health product online business, is that I agreed for you to meet the Hindujas or one of the big Indian families, because I was then chairman of an Indian company. And they were thinking of doing a similar business. And the idea was we'd meet with them. There was someone in North Circular. And the idea was that we would go to the gym first, because we haven't talked about that. You and I are gym bunnies to the 10th degree. And so we carried our suits down to the car, and we went off to the gym. And then we went on to the meeting. And when we got changing in the gym, you couldn't find your suit pants. So we phoned Mum at home, and she went down, and in the rain she found the soggy suit pants that had fallen off the hanger. So now we had to go to the doyen richest families in India to do a presentation. Tony did a presentation in his business wearing his tracksuit and his gym kit. And they were a bit taken aback, and then they gave the floor to Tony in their boardroom, and just Tony stood up, and from the moment he said the first word, he was in total command of the room, in his tracksuit. which leads me to another story we'll get to on the career about me doing a similar sort of thing in a presentation. Those are two of the things that describe you and Tash to a T.
Do you remember any family trips the most?
Which one to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
That was fascinating.
I remember that.
The trip to Cape Canaveral and our timeshare swapping somewhere in Florida, and the trip to Disney World and that sort of thing. Again, coming back to being selfish, a lot of our holidays were spent on the boat or in Cape St. Francis. And every year we used to fly out to South Africa for Christmas. The company flew us out there, and always business class. And Tony used to always say, I feel so sorry for you, Pops, having to fly home to work, because I love the flight. I enjoy the flight and the meal. And I remember the one time they upgraded us to first class, and this flight assistant came up and said, brought a plastic tray from tourists and said, children don't normally like the food up front. We just got a tray. And I said, no. Tony wanted his caviar, a little blini, and he put the caviar and chopped egg on it. He wanted the slice off the roast beef. So you always enjoyed the flying part. We never enjoyed the flying part. Those sort of there were. I was away a lot, but when we did do things together, we did them as a family, and we loved every minute of it. Decided, selfishly.
Well, I did too. Okay, so that sort of ends up the Parenthood side, and there's a question that coming in from Mike Manistee, which kind of leads into the work area. But he actually had a question which has a photograph. And then, what does fat pop mean to you?
Mobile interoperability.
Does it make any sense to you at all? It's the first time I've ever seen that picture.
Yes, this is Mike Manistee, who I owe a lot to, including friendship. But he did one thing to me that I will partly thankful and partly be ever aggressive towards him. When I retired, up until then, Mike had managed to sort out. Mike is an interesting character. He used to be a submariner for the Royal Navy. He's been a teacher, but he moved into IT, and he's very IT literate. And he ended up doing IT for 3 or 4 of the companies that I chaired, Jarvis and various companies that I chaired at the time. And he became a great friend, and I was the best man at his wedding. Now, he went on to apply to be the Chief Information Officer for the Prisons and Probation Department in the UK, before there was such a thing as a Ministry of Justice. And he was faced with a project to integrate all the software in the prisons and probation, which is a massively overspecified task, and it was failing. We had EDS, the American company, was installing it. We're talking about a project that had £250 million budget as a new installation, and by the time I got involved, we're up to £1 billion. So we're talking about big numbers, Public Accounts Committee being called for and things. And he said to the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Justice, as it was being formed, I've got somebody who could help me to handle EDS. So I was pulled in on a 1-day-a-week basis to look at the procurement situation. And that ended up with me ending up 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then they formed the new Ministry of Justice, and they had 206,000 users, the second biggest government department. 206,000 users over 6 different platforms, and 240 IT departments. It was absolute chaos. And then they asked me to become Chief Information Officer of the whole ministry, to install this at ministry board level. And that's what he got me involved in. And he and I thought exactly alike about this chaos that we were doing, and we sorted it out. My great story about that, other than the lots of little anecdotes that went along the way, is that eventually the government called for a meeting. We had a big seminar about it, and I was asked to report. And I reported with the chief executive of EDS, who died during the process because at a company function, somebody tried to molest one of his staff. He stopped the guy molesting the staff, and the guy hit him. He hit his head on the pavement and died. So it's a little side egg. You can edit that out if you want to. And we wrote a report, 16 pages long, with Mike's help, about what went wrong with it. They then said, well, we have to go to the Public Accounts Committee, so we're going to appoint Deloitte or somebody to do a proper opinion on this. So Deloitte, they spent £3 million on Deloitte to do the report. And the executive summary of the report that went to the Public Accounts Committee was verbatim, word for word, what I'd written in my 16-page report. I can tell you a lot about government, but Mike and I suffered it, and very interesting. Great friends made in that sort of circumstance. You know. I can tell you about prison visits and what goes on at Wandsworth on a dark night.